The curricular aspects, the aspects which I have been given are the curriculum update, the best practices in curriculum aspects, and feedback on the curriculum. So higher education has got many purposes. It is acquisition of concrete knowledge and skills, developing the ability to reason systematically and critically questions and issues, and place the facts in a broader context, to consider the moral implications of actions and choices, to communicate knowledge and questions effectively, to nurture habits that promote lifelong learning behaviors outside the formal settings, and developing the skills of analysis, synthesis, and argumentation. With these some of the few aspects, the curriculum has to be defined and redefined and redefined. Rather, to some extent, in the lifelong learning behaviors, they should be know that don't, as Mark Twain said, don't let college interfere in your education. So that kind of attitude has to be developed, and they have to be given the right facilities and inspiration to become lifelong learners, as well as acquire different types of skills. So the key indicators up to 1.2 Dr. Sujeta had taken. So the performer says the institution integrates cross-cutting issues relevant to gender, environment, sustainability, human values, health determinants, right to health, emerging demographic issues, and professional ethics into a curriculum as prescribed by the university and its respective regulative councils. So for this, we have to develop multiple courses. In many universities, we have the environment environmental education has been made compulsory. Human values is also been made special. Small 2-day workshops, 5-day workshops are taking place in many universities. Gender issues are also being taken care of, and medical ethics, professionalism, they are also being incorporated into the curriculum, and all these have to be crystallized into small courses of at least 15 contact hours. So for the curriculum enrichment, the question is, how often is the curriculum of the institution reviewed, upgraded for making it socially relevant or skill-oriented, knowledge-intensive, and meeting the emerging needs of students and other stakeholders? So at present, we are passing through a competency-based medical education, which is being reviewed, which is passed by the academic council, the faculty of medical sciences, and besides these, we can also create various skill-oriented courses in the electives, or we can create some, we can tie up with surrounding institutions, we can tie up with some engineering college for certain ICT based courses, or we can have somebody come to, or we can have online courses which are now available in plenty. All we need to do is provide certain infrastructure, time, and environment for having these courses. And we have to add the data on the number of value-added courses imparting transferable life skills offered during last 5 years. And each course must have at least 15 or more contact hours. If you already have some courses, you can convert them into increase the number of hours, and so that they become value-added courses, and you can give certificates to students also. And you can have I mean, supposing in one batch there are 10 or 20 students, you can have multiple sessions and create brochures or documents according to them. Then, so also we have to make sure that the various students which are enrolled in such courses, their list is provided. We have to provide a list of those students which are enrolled, and the data validation partner, I mean, the data validation can be done, and he may be, ask the certificates of some random students enrolled in these courses and check it. So we should not do, I mean, many institutions have a practice of doing these just distributing certificates, or I mean, the validation partner can ask. I mean, now we have got third party validators who will ask for any certificates of these students. And during the last 4 years, how many new programs were introduced at UG and PG levels? Give details. Multiple interdisciplinary programs in emerging areas. So in anatomy, we can give the value-added course in the form of, supposing in the upper limb, we can link it with certain, and we can link it with a course like semantics. We can, I saw in one university, there was a course on Latin, medical Latin, latissimus dorsi. What is the meaning of it? Then it was a 1 month course, and the students were, I mean, taking good involvement in it. Then we can do, if you go on Coursera, you will find in anatomy, they do the upper limb anatomy, and then also they have linked it with orthopedics of upper limb and lower limb. You just go to Coursera, you will find such courses. So similar courses can be created. So average percentage of students enrolled in value-added courses. You know how you develop courses. I mean, even if you see, we are developing many courses in our MU India thing. I mean, it has been many years. How we develop it? We take a very small area, like we are nowadays having a course on flow cytometry, histograms. We take a very small area and go deep into it. So everybody won't come, but those who are interested, they come in large numbers. And in fact, these the key term is interrelationships. The interrelationships between various curricular aspects, they result in certain knowledge loops. These knowledge loops, they start increasing. Recently, we have created a course in which we have got very good participation, is Geographical Information System in Health. The faculty is from the IIT Mumbai, while they are the faculty is from IIT Mumbai, and participants are from different medical colleges. So and they are teaching mapping skills to community medicine teachers. So similarly, you link various kinds of knowledge streams and create a new kind of a system, a new kind of knowledge loop. And a metallurgy course, metallurgy can be taught to dental students or even orthopedicians so as to create better prosthesis. Indian Space Research Organization faculty can teach people in the better prosthesis because they have the kind of metals they use, they can be used for creating new prosthesis. So, considering these, we have to create different kinds of courses, and they have to be sent to the students have to be involved, and their number of value-added courses and transferable skills, they need to be shared. The list has to be created. So next is and also we have to create the average percentage of students involved. And what are these strategies adopted for the revision of existing programs, and what percentage of courses underwent a syllabus revision? So for this, we don't have a lot of scope but currently we are with the CBME syllabus, we have to involve these. I mean, the scope has increased much more with the availability of electives, with the availability of various kinds of possibilities. I can see some questions. So Dr. Swati Purnima has asked, will ACLS and PAL certificate be considered value added? Of course. Digitalizing with assessment strategies in one aspect or topic. So Dr. Bhavna says, if anatomy has a value-added course, say for ortho or ENT students, either phase 3 or PG, then can these 15 hours be out of their 3 years of PG, or do they have to be extra hours? Meaning, can they do it in their PG years? Because these are generally outside. I mean, it is how we teach them. We have to organize them in a way that they can be placed. I mean, you can either. I mean, this I don't know how to place them in the 15 hours in their 3 years or etc. I mean, because the level is not that high, but they are sufficient enough to arouse an interest in continuous learning within the student. And various strategies for revision of existing programs. So this is what various strategies. One, I said that just take a small area and go deeper into it. And many of these things are not very difficult. It is all just a will that you want to give or tell the student. Otherwise, and you know, one of the biggest problems in our country is that we want all or none. If out of 150 students, if just about 7 or 8 students are willing to learn it, good enough. I mean, this is the biggest problem. Either we expect all 150 to come or none at all. This is where it is the biggest difficulty. I once conducted for second prof students, I conducted a course in literature search for those who are interested in this ICMR STS projects. So just about 15 students came, and that was good enough. I mean, we taught them about various aspects of this Mendeleev, about the various literature search sites, and that was good enough. Similarly, there are students who are very good in some aspects, so let them learn. I mean, this all and none phenomena, that is sometimes I feel this is a big problem. Can a value-added course be certified one? Of course, yes. And rather you have to make it satisfied, because 15 hours and followed by certificate, and these certificates have to be given. And you can include, yes, as Dr. Mathani has answered, if it is beyond the curriculum and stipulated hours, then you can include it. The percentage of students undertaking the field visits, internship, research projects, industry visits, community postings. Now, this is another aspect which has to be taken, and I mean, those who are in internship and community medicine, I mean, if you have in your city some factory which is creating some medical, which is making drugs, or how the drugs are created, or you can visit some I mean, now they are ending, but I remember earlier there used to be places where lepers used to stay, and also various health related facilities are being created in different or near different cities. So we have to think creatively and how do we take these students and involve them. And in fact, now even electronically we can create such activities. I mean, almost the sky is the limit with the possibilities. Percentage of students undertaking these research projects, and we have to provide the academic the data of the last academic year to be considered, and one student can be involved in multiple field works, and of course we can involve the interns, the final year students. Their field visits can be documented, and we have also to provide sufficient amount of relevant supporting documents. Then what are the value-added courses offered by institution, and how does the institution ensure that all students have access to them? So we can create a place where students can go do some self-learning. We can create various skill development programs. The SWAYAM portal is there, but many institutions don't have a place where students can access that SWAYAM portals, and for different national health programs we have to create certain environment by which their knowledge can be given. And personality development courses, health clubs, availability of counselors, holding meditation camps, they are also now considered part of the education. Does the curriculum provide adequate emphasis on patient safety, confidentiality, rights, and education? Now, this is another aspect which has now come up. We have got specialized workshops on patient safety. In bioethics, we have got various sessions on confidentiality and rights of the patients, and various other value systems. I mean, we can have some lectures on Ayurveda, homeopathy, etc., etc. I mean, at least some kind of integration with other systems, they have to be added, and the curriculum has to be enriched, and the data for this has to be linked. 15 years, 15 contact hours, each course has to be given a code. Rather, in NAC, every course has to be given a code. Year of offering, number of times, number of students enrolled, number of students completing, create documentation. So this is another template of what we discussed. Industry internships. This is more for engineering colleges, but for medical also they are being taken. Incubation, startups within medical, they are also coming up. A very good feedback system has to be there. The feedback loop. If you see the NAC Proforma, at the end there is a list of questions which have to be asked, and structured feedback has to be taken from students, teachers, employers, alumni, various professionals, and the minutes of meeting of the college council, internal quality assurance cell, curriculum committee, they all have to be placed in these feedback. Initially it is a bit difficult, but after 1 or 2 years it becomes part of the system. So the structured feedback has to be given, the sample filled feedback forms have to be provided to the assessors, and also the filled feedback report, the analysis, it has to be provided, and the feedback related to design and review of syllabus will not be considered. And also, if we see in those questions at the end, there are a lot of other topics there in the Proforma provided by NAC. Does the institution have a formal mechanism to obtain feedback from students regarding the curriculum and how it is made use of? Now, on this, many teachers now have developed feedback that after every lecture, they take a feedback in the form of a Google form, and it is gradually entering our culture. And when that feedback from the students is taken, and then action is taken immediately or till the next lecture. So this the copies of these can be placed, and we have to ask the students whether the feedback, tell them whether feedback is, at what stage we are, whether feedback is collected, analyzed, taken on feedback, available, is it available on, we have to make it available on the website, collected, analyzed, and action has been taken. Collected and analyzed, sometimes it is analyzed and no action is taken, sometimes feedback is not collected. So feedback processes of the institution have to be placed on the website. And does the institution elicit feedback on the curriculum from national and international faculty? We have to involve outside stakeholders, and by conducting webinars, workshops, online discussions and their impact, and provide a mechanism for the institution to give feedback. Different, now there is a mechanism by which institutions of national importance, they provide hand-holding to surrounding institutions. So that mechanism is also gradually coming up, that if you have got some very famous institution with high NAC, that institution can provide consultancy to surrounding institutions. And based on the feedback, what are the quality sustenance and quality enhancement measures undertaken by the institution in ensuring the effective development of curricula, and what mechanisms are adopted by the management of the institution to obtain adequate information and feedback from faculty, students, patients, parents, industry, hospitals, general public, employers, alumni, interns, and review the activities of the institution. It is a very broad spectrum feedback, and it has to be done. And many institutions are doing it also. When we start, we appear at okay, but gradually, once we have a will, we are able to do it. And also, the various the proofs of that have to be kept on the website with URL provided, and feedback on curricula and syllabi have to be from stakeholders.